So this is Ladies Who Code, and we are very, very delighted to be here with the lovely folks at Auto Trader who are sponsoring us this time round. So thank you very much for the pie and the wine and everything. Thank you. Hopefully you'll have us back soon and we can have more. So for anyone who doesn't know me, my name's Amy. I work for a company called ThoughtWorks. My background's in recruitment. I now work in more of a marketing role, but for as long as I can remember, I've kind of been very aware of some of the challenges and opportunities surrounded by women in technology, and it's something that I feel very strongly about, creating a safe space for people to sort of share their stories, and this is why I wanted to do something really important for Ada Lovelace Day. So that isn't today, it was a week ago, as you probably know. But we wanted to do a special Ladies Who Code. We did an event similar to this one back in March for International Women's Day, where we just invited speakers, experienced and not as experienced, to just come and share their stories and stuff. So we wanted to do that again because it went really well last time. So fingers crossed it's going to go well again this time round. So there's one thing that I want to draw your attention to. Outside this room, like pushed back against this wall, there's a bright orange board with loads of post-it notes and stickies. We really want your input on what you'd like to hear about in future events. So do you want more lightning talks? Do you want more hands-on kind of coding sessions? Do you want more senior people talking about leadership and stuff like that? So please do take some time to just let us know what you would like to hear about more in the future, because it will really help us to pull that together for you. Similarly, if anyone would like to speak at future events or host or sponsor future events, please do let us know. For ages, we've been holding Ladies Who Code in ThoughtWorks offices, but we don't want to do that anymore. We want to go on tour and see other places of work because we're getting a bit bored being cooped up in ThoughtWorks all the time. So I think that's probably it for that one. Give us a shout. You can talk to me or any other members of Ladies Who Code who will put their hands up now. Make yourself known. So there's a few people here that you can speak to if you want to sponsor, or if you do want to speak, or if there's any topic that you'd like to talk to us about and we can try and help with. So is there anybody in the room who doesn't know who Ada Lovelace Day is? Because I can try and help summarise that. So Ada Lovelace was just a legend, basically. This year it's 200 years since the anniversary of her birth. She was a mathematician, and she just represents amazing things for women in STEM and the achievements of women in STEM. So yeah, go Ada. We like Ada. That's Ada. Go Ada. So today we have got 5 speakers. We're treating this as lightning talks, which means they should be about 5 minutes in length. It might go over, but that's okay. We're all right about that. So we've got 5 talks, probably 5 minutes in length, and then time for Q&A in between them. So if you have got any questions, please do shout up. If not, we can chat afterwards over a soft drink or an alcoholic beverage. So that's about it from me. So we will move on to the first of our speakers. I'll do a very brief introduction. So the first of our speakers is Claire. So Claire is a developer at Sky. She's a self-taught web developer. She's mainly using JavaScript and Ruby. She loves writing code and thinks being a software developer is one of the most interesting careers you can have. I do. All the software developers are like, yeah. And she hopes to inspire other women to get into coding. So I will pass over to you to talk about Coding After Code Academy. Okay. Round of applause, please.
Okay. Cool. So you finished your JavaScript course on Code Academy, and you're wondering what to do next. I'm a self-taught web developer. I started coding a couple of years ago. I now get paid to code at Sky, and it's great. So I'm going to give you some advice which I could have done with a couple of years ago to get me going and to motivate me. So first of all, build something. So now you've done your guided exercises, you need to come away from that comfort blanket, and you need to start building real apps that are useful. They're not just like little proof of concept exercises. And this can be a bit scary at first, but it's not that bad once you get going. Pick something that interests you, that you've got so you're motivated to see it through to the end. It could use an API that you're interested in, Twitter data, or it could be a game. Games are quite easy to get going with. You could always do the good old to-do list app, which every single tutorial tells you how to do, but it is a really good example to start off with. And it'll help you to take a big task and break it down into smaller tasks, which you have to do as a software developer. You can't just do the whole thing at once. While you're doing it, put all your stuff on GitHub, because then you'll learn source control, which is so important, and it also shows the rest of the world what you're doing at the same time. It looks great when you start to apply for jobs. So next, you need to actually remember to write code, because now you've got your app that you want to build and you start Googling around it and you start reading blogs about how to get better at JavaScript, and you'll get into this rabbit hole of just reading textbooks and tutorials and watching YouTube videos, and you'll forget to actually code sometimes, and you just think, I can't actually do it. I can't start coding because I don't know how to do it yet. You do. Just start coding. Get the console and Chrome DevTools up, open a text file, start typing these examples in while you're reading about them, and just experiment with them, and you'll get better. While you're also doing this, try and break the code as well, because it's so important to be familiar with broken code and error messages and not be scared of that. Like passing a number instead of a letter, take the semicolons off, just experiment with the code, try and break it, because God knows how much of your time you're going to spend debugging when you're a software developer. So the code that you write is going to be awful at this point because you're a beginner, but that's okay as well. Don't let that put you off. Everybody has to start somewhere. You're going to have to Google every single thing that you want to do. You're going to have to get stuff off Stack Overflow. That's okay, because we all get stuff off Stack Overflow every day. But make sure while you're doing it, you're not just copying and pasting blindly. Make sure that you're kind of understanding the stuff that you're taking off Stack Overflow and other code snippets. Type it in, so you're just starting to build that muscle memory and you kind of understand what you're doing a little bit more. So now you've written some code, it works. Now you want to improve it. You want to start going over it, start trying to refactor it. It's a bit of a buzzword. Try and make it better, because when you come back to it in 6 months' time, do you really think you're going to understand it? Probably not. So you need to sort of document it, put comments in your code, but also can you make those variable names a little bit more descriptive? Can you reduce the number of lines that method takes to do that thing? Sort of like assigning a variable unnecessarily. Try and make it a little bit cleaner. What I don't mean by this is getting wound up about performance metrics, because that's really not important at this stage, because you're not building Amazon or anything. It's really good at this point to see if you can get feedback from your colleagues or peers. If you've got somebody in real life to see if they can review your code, this is a really great opportunity to get much better at coding. They can advise you not just on the syntax stuff, but also on the style stuff, which is really important. And yes, coding efficiently. Making your workflow better will make you a better software developer, so you'll be able to code faster. So how good are you at typing? It's so basic you don't even think about it, but you'll be a much better coder if you can type a little bit faster, if you can touch type. And also learning where all those little special characters are on the keyboard that you don't use every day. It's a good investment of your time to do that. And also, when you've picked an editor and you start to code, you can pick whatever you want. I'm not going to dictate Vim, IntelliJ, Sublime. Become a power user of that editor. Make sure you know all the keyboard shortcuts, because really good software developers, they don't have to look at the keyboard while they're using it, but they don't need to take their hands away from the keyboard to click things with the mouse as well. Teaching other people and sharing what you're doing with other people is a great way to learn. I can guarantee there'll be somebody else out there who's having the same problem as you and would love to read your blog post about what you've just done and your take on it. If you start a blog, it looks great when you're applying for jobs again. It's giving back to the open source community. Blogging is great. I've just started blogging. I really enjoy it. I'm probably going to blog about this at the end. And it also helps you, again, to get feedback off of the people once you start interacting with the wider community. And finally, it's obvious, but just keep writing code. The only way to get better at coding is to write code. Make it part of your everyday routine. Spend half an hour after dinner. doing it, and it can be a bit overwhelming at first, especially with web development, the amount of stuff that you feel that you have to learn. But once you get going and once you start building things and you can interact with them on the browser, it's a really great feeling. I love it. Being a software developer is amazing. I really recommend it to everyone. And also, learning and trying to improve your craft is something you should do anyway at any point in your career as a software developer, because it's always about learning and keeping on top of the latest technologies. And that's another reason why I love this career, because you're just learning something new every single day. So good luck in your coding. Thank you.
Wow, loads of advice, amazing. Any questions for Claire on any of that, or Code Academy, or anything?
How did you decide what to build? I did an online course too, so
yeah, it's a huge problem. I stumbled across a tutorial for JavaScript, and it's on javascriptissexy.com. It's a real website. It is. And they started to do a quiz, and I thought that was, I'm quite geeky, and I like kind of online quizzes and stuff, and that was really interesting. Also from the perspective that it was a good tutorial, and it broke it down into small sections. And then once I kind of followed through on that, then I just sort of started to be inspired by things that I might find useful, just like really silly utilities. I made a gem when I was learning Ruby that would kind of say things from the command line randomly. It doesn't solve a problem, but yeah, and I just started thinking about like renaming files in batch. Can I do that with a Ruby script? Or yeah.
Cool. Any other questions?
What language are you going to learn next?
Oh, I don't know. I've learned Ruby since I've been at Sky. Ruby's really useful. It's a really good utility language. I think with JavaScript, I love JavaScript, and there's so many other frameworks to learn, never mind languages. So I'm looking at React at the moment because that's like flavor of the month. But yeah, there's always a new framework in JavaScript to learn.
And what background did you come from, and what made you make the transition? And did you think you could do it, and all that kind of stuff?
I did physics at university, and then I fell into sort of financial analysis using something called SAS. I did that for a couple of years, and it was a bit of an analyst role. But I saw like Python scripts and other people doing coding around me, and I thought that was so much more interesting than my analysis stuff that I was doing. And so I just started to Google, because the internet's just great for Googling and reading stuff. And then I just decided to retrain. I did a master's at Liverpool University. I don't necessarily recommend that as the best way to do it. You need to code and stick things up on GitHub, and I think that's the best way to get into it. But I just found it much more stimulating than the stuff I was doing. I really enjoyed problem solving and puzzles and stuff, and it just really floats my boat.
Can I ask a quick question? It's not all about me. How do you get involved in Code Academy? What is it like? How long does it go on for? And is it remote or like?
So it's a website that you make an account, you sign up for it, and it's got loads of exercises which will start to teach you the syntax and the basics of HTML, CSS, JavaScript, Ruby. I think they're mostly web-based ones, but they're really basic, but without being patronising or anything. Yeah. They'll take you right through it. There's a really good community and lots of chat rooms and stuff. There's ones like Code School's really good as well. They've got lots of videos, and they always have little funny theme tunes and stuff. But there's loads of different things like that out there, which they're not as dry as a textbook, and it's also because you've got it's always encouraging you to type and do exercises and get feedback and learn how to do things, so it can keep you motivated. And you win lots of little badges and stuff, and it's just gamification. It's great fun.
Cool. Thank you. Any other questions? Should we let Claire have a seat? There you go, Claire. Thank you very much. Thank you. That was awesome. I don't know if I'm quite ready for Code Academy, but at least I know more about it for if that ever does happen. So next up we have Anne, who is waving. So Anne is a development team lead. She works at Sage. She's been working in the industry for about 15 years experience, and she's got about 15 years experience working with software development teams. She currently leads cross-functional teams working on security critical global services. Wow, sounds well impressive. She's delivered a lot of security training within Sage, and I think that's what your topic is going to be about this evening. So please do take to the stage, if you will, and we'll hear about security. Thanks, Sam.
Okay, yeah. Thank you. That's probably my first slide pretty much dealt with. So yeah, I work at Sage. I have spoken at Ladies Who Code before, so some of these slides may look familiar to a few people, and apologies for that, but I'm going to be brief. So at least if you're seeing them for the second time, we're going through it quickly. So why are we here? Well, I'm going to talk about why security is important and how we can fit it into our continuous delivery pipelines, if that's what we're doing. Continuous delivery is often seen as sort of an enemy to security. Like, how can you be agile and secure at the same time? And I think that you can, as long as you have the right culture and the right tool support, the right automation. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. And this slide's just about us understanding why security is important. So it seems at the moment that all of the companies out there are in an escalation of who can have the most embarrassing security breach. So none of us particularly want to come into work and find out we're in the middle of a sort of an Ashley Madison type situation, do we? So, because that would be quite painful and potentially career limiting. So, just to get an idea, is anybody actually a security professional in the room? That's fairly standard for an IT department, actually. So generally, the security team is fairly underrepresented, which helps you understand a little bit why it's so important that we all try and pitch in a bit. We all try and take a little bit of responsibility for the stuff that we put out there. So what kind of things can we do to build up the right culture and feel that we're involved in some way in security? So one of the things that we do, and I think it's quite important to help people understand the why, is we do a thing called threat modelling. And here's an example of the kind of thing that we might do. So we might sort of draw out our system, think about the kinds of things that are floating around inside it, the kind of information that we might be trying to protect. And then we start to pretend to be the bad guy. We start to think evil, right? So if we were someone trying to steal people's bank details, what could we do? So we do that sort of thing. And what that does is it takes security from something, you know what, we should probably do something about security, to something that's actually real, something that actually could affect the systems and the products that you're working on. And you start to get an idea of the big picture. And you start to think, well, what can I do then? You know, what is the new busy code I can write? What is the, you know, the security firewalls and things I can put in if I'm an ops person or whatever. So you start to think about it. And maybe if you're a BA, you know, what are those requirements you're actually wanting to put in to stop something happening in the first place? So it's the kind of things we do. And then really just coming back to this continuous delivery thing, when you are continuously delivering, you're taking essentially thin vertical slices of functionality and you're delivering them little and often. And we kind of get now that, you know, we maybe want to think a little bit about UX when we do this. So we want to make sure that our customers are going to have a great experience when we put that new piece of functionality in. All I'm saying is, and security as well. That should really be part of the slice, because actually nothing's a worse customer experience than having their email details spread all over the internet, especially if they're trying to cheat on their wife. So I've kind of talked a little bit about the culture and the activities that we can do, and now I'm going to go into the kind of things that we've done at Sage to try and automate some security verification and testing into our pipeline. But before I do, I think it's worth pointing out that quite a lot of security tools can be a bit disruptive, dangerous. They're essentially simulating an attack. So before you start playing with them, probably a good idea to make sure that you've got explicit permission to do it. Also, so we use Amazon, for example. They have very particular rules about what you can and can't do. They've got their own mechanisms for spotting people who are up to no good, and you don't want to be setting off the alarm. So it's always worth thinking a little bit about, maybe I shouldn't do this. So staying the right side of their acceptable use policy has very much guided us in terms of what we do and when and where we do it, actually. So the kind of things that we're doing, we use, for historical purposes, a thing called Z attack proxy. And I say historical purposes, the guy who's in charge of the project used to work at Sage. So, and it's quite a good tool. You don't really need to know that much about security and the kind of attacks that are happening. What it does is essentially you put it between the browser and your web application, and it kind of listens on the traffic. It starts to build up a profile of that application. And then you can kind of go attack, and it just goes off, and it goes and tries all the standard OWASP top 10 if you heard of them, so like the cross-site request forgery, SQL injection, those sorts of things. It just goes off and tries to attack your application for you. And how we use this is we, instead of browser, think Selenium. So what we do is, while we're running our normal functional tests against our web applications, we're also training as an attack proxy and building in it as part of our build environment. So as part of each integration test, we are actually doing sort of an application level check of our system to make sure we haven't just checked something stupid in. We do this on our build server in our own server environment in Sage. We don't do that in Amazon for reasons stated previously. What we do in Amazon, though, once our integration tests have passed, what we do is part of our deployment cycle, as it were, our promotion cycle, is we build machine images that we deploy. So we put everything from essentially our build servers, build everything in, they bake in. So we put an OS, patches, web containers, Tomcats, things like that. All of our application code, we build it from scratch each time. So once we've done that, we get a product called Qualys. We spin up one of our boxes, and then we just run some vulnerability scans against that box. Now we do this in Amazon because this is an actual Amazon machine image that we're testing against. And the reason why we can do this without annoying them is because Qualys is a pre-authorized machine image. And what they do is they guarantee, by monitoring Amazon's APIs, that they stay within Amazon policy at all times when they're scanning your boxes, which is quite nice. So we get that big tick, and we also get, oh, we're not going to get told off by Amazon, which is quite nice. And then another thing we do, so we've looked at the application, we've looked at the box that it sits on, but also what we do is, you've got to bear in mind the box that something sits on is only part of the environment. There's a whole sort of virtual network out there if you're in Amazon. So what we do is we use a product called Scout 2. And again, that's not a destructive tool. That doesn't go around and start attacking Amazon or anything like that. All it does is it works with Amazon's own APIs, and it goes, what security groups you got, etc., etc. And it just checks that it conforms to security best practice. That's all it does. And you can just leave it going and it will tell you. One thing I should say though, and this is a message I want to get across is that we're still on this journey. And this bit, this isn't also magic yet. This bit, somebody still has to press a button and then get a report back, right? So we're still on this journey. And also it's worth mentioning that there's new stuff coming out all the time. So Amazon themselves, a couple of weeks ago, announced Amazon Inspector, which, you know, all that work we've done, and I was saying about all the different layers we've put in, it does all that, and it will do PCI compliance as well. Thanks, Amazon. 6 months ago would have been slightly better. But anyway, so the point I'm getting across is our stuff isn't perfect. We're still building it all in, and it's getting easier all the time. Don't worry, I'm nearly done now. So my take-home message is we all, if we work in IT, we're already kind of having an impact on the security of the stuff that we do. And I would urge you to have a go. And I know you're thinking, oh, but in the same way that the only way to get good at coding is to do coding, the only way to get good at security is to actually have a go at it. And in this instance, I know sometimes a little knowledge is a dangerous thing, but in this instance, anything you can do will improve the situation, because something is better than nothing. So, just a little bit of, maybe trying a little bit of threat modeling, thinking, building those mental processes up, or maybe looking at trying something like Zettertech proxy if you're a bit further down the sort of, delivery line type stuff would be good. And that's pretty much me, and I will take questions, but also lurk in case anybody wants any info. Thanks.
Thank you. That's the second time I've heard it, and I feel like I'm getting it now. It's very important, very, very important. Any questions for Anne on all things security? I was going to ask whose responsibility is it, but I get everybody. All
have you got any plans to move to any of the new tools we were just talking about then?
Going to try them out. So at Sage, we're just starting up a new thing in the organisation that I now work for as of a couple of weeks ago, done a bit of a move across. And we're going to have a thing called DevOps Labs, which is really exciting for me because I love continuous delivery and I love security as well. So yeah, we're going to be trying out lots of new stuff. So maybe I'll come back in a year and tell you what works. Yeah, exactly. But that's the thing, is that there's always new stuff coming out, and then the bar to entry to trying these things out is always getting lower and lower. So I think people recognise it's an important thing to help support companies with. So there's more and more coming out.
Any other questions? Okie dokes. Have a seat. Thank you very much, Anne. And we'll be lurking. So thank you. So next up. Oh, look, already up. Catherine. So I first saw, this isn't in my information that Catherine provided, but I have seen this talk already as well when I met Catherine at an event that we both spoke at Sky, and I really liked it, and I hope you like it too. It's all right. So Catherine's a developer at Sky. Sky are really represented tonight. Go Sky. So Catherine tried a few things before falling into software development 3 years ago, including politics, law, event planning.
Yeah, weddings.
Oh, really? We'll talk about that later.
I've been to enough weddings now.
She will work for chocolates and sweets. She said that, not me, but I thought I'd point that out. And she also wants to encourage more women into tech. Yes. So I will let you crack on with Stop Breaking My Stuff.
Purely for selfish reasons, I've got ready-made friends. So I was working on a big refactor, and the first thing we were doing was writing some tests. So it was about 2 weeks into writing these tests. I went on holiday for 5 days, 3 of which were work days. It was nice. And while I was away, someone did this. I'll build the project. I won't run the tests. Whatever. So I came back and I was pretty annoyed. And I looked at all the conventional advice, a few LinkedIn articles, that kind of thing, a bit of tasteway. But it's really hard to take anything from the advice when you feel like this is the most rational response. And what are the options? So first of all, just kind of get on with it, maybe fix the tests yourself and don't worry too much. And then option 2, just kind of get over it. They're just unit tests. It doesn't really matter. You come back from holiday, right? These are not just unit tests, okay? These represent your standing in the team. These tests are about respect. So you go up to the person who wrote your tests, do the alpha male or female primate thing, just stare at them. And if they say anything, you just go, you know what you did. Because things sometimes tend to descend a bit on us. So you actually the whole thing, point out that one there. So it's the first time they've done it. You can't really go to your manager every time something happens, or your scrum master, or your project manager, or whoever. And it's probably an adult thing to do to try and deal with things in a way that meaningfully resolve the situation. And then, so that's the first scenario, someone's broken your tests. What can you do? So here's some advice. First of all, something that I keep failing to learn from and need to work on is don't make it personal. Just because they broke your test doesn't mean they hate you, even though it might feel like you hate them. Put it in context. Maybe there was something else going on. You had a really impractical deadline. Maybe they needed to push something out or deploy something. And check your communication. Like, do you have a good relationship with them, or have you kind of got a history of being a bit touchy and aggressive? Which is not me. And hopefully you can be friends. And how to make it worse? Blame them. Or my favourite one is be really patronising. Or just ignore it. So if you do find yourself doing anything wrong and things get worse, we have the second scenario, which is someone who just breaks everything. They break the bill. And things are getting a bit bad, like really bad. Kind of shit's going down. This is a fictionalized account of some of our release logs. There's another one. And then my favourite one, this is when we started aliasing them because it got that bad. So what do you do this time? So you've tried to be friends, you've had a friendly chat, you've picked your time and place, and hopefully you've been mature about it, and they're still doing it anyway. So this is the point, I think, where you take it to the team. Make it a team problem. Maybe have a retro, a nice impersonal retro where you put some, rather than kind of like stop breaking my shit, some kind of nice, how do we feel about this, post-it notes and things might improve. Or pair, because then you can watch them all the time. And yeah, friends, everything's good. But unfortunately, sometimes there are people who just don't want to play. And in this situation, there's not very much you can do, unfortunately, and I really hope this works. Every time I see that, I laugh. It doesn't matter how many times I've seen it. Anyway, yeah, the end.
Thank you. I don't think you had the cat film live video when I saw it. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. When I thought it couldn't get any better. If it's got videos of pictures of monkeys and stuff, I'm in. But that, yeah.
Have cats in a coding talk.
That's fantastic. Thank you. Any questions for Catherine? Observations, anything? Yeah.
You mentioned pair coding. Do you do a lot of pair coding? How do you find it?
Mixed bag. So in that case, it was really useful in that particular example. And since then, I've moved jobs for a variety of reasons. And I think it works. I think it depends entirely on what you work with, or what you're working on. Sorry. So there are some things that I think there are some teams at Sky where they pair on everything, which I really wouldn't enjoy. I think if you're making a trivial change, you really don't need two people. And then I think also it depends on the skill level. If you're on a similar skill level to someone, I think it's really good and really positive. But if you've got like a really very, very new developer with a really experienced developer, it can feel more like teaching than pairing, and that works for some people and not really for others. So I'm a kind of mood-based pair programmer. And yeah, if I had more authority, I might do it differently. But.
Any other questions? I'm sure we can have lots of nice conversations about opinions on pair programming and whatnot later, so that'll be good.
Claire's got a few. So.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Fab. Next up, we have Kirsty, who is sandwiched right in the back in the most awkward speaking position ever. So whilst Kirsty makes her way to the front, I will tell you a little bit about her. I roped Kirsty into this.
You did.
And I hope one day you'll stop hating me for it. Because she came to an event that was in the ThoughtWorks office last week, and I was like, come on.
That's my first slide.
Oh no! Right. So I won't say anymore, but Kirsty is a software developer working at Swinton and a STEM ambassador. She loves sharing her enthusiasm for tech and can usually be found at one of the many tech events in Manchester, this being one tonight. So I will leave it to you. Thank you.
So yeah, a bit of background about this talk. As Amy said, she wrote me into this. So I went to a ThoughtWorks talk last week, and it was about women in leadership. And one of the closing slides was something along the lines of when have you stepped outside your comfort zone and achieved something? And we had to discuss in pairs 2 examples of when we'd stepped outside our comfort zone. Hence I actually made that. Photoshop skills. So off the back of that, I thought I'd agreed to speak at this, which is massively stepping outside of my comfort zone. And I had no idea what to talk about. And because we were there and then, and Amy put me on the spot, I said, oh, I'll just talk about stepping outside my comfort zone and just share my story and my passion for technology and why I think it's a good idea to step outside your comfort zone. So I mentioned that we had to share 2 examples of when we stepped outside our comfort zone. My first one was at the very start of my career. I had a job that I thought was as a software developer, and it turned out they'd employed 2 software developers and they only had space for 1. So at the end of my probation period, I was taken into the office and they said to me, we'd like you to be business development. And I said, no, I want to be a developer. And they said, well, we've already got a developer, but I want to be a developer. We want you to be business development. I said, okay, I quit. And I was like, I've just quit my job and I have nowhere to go. But I didn't want to be business development. I really wanted to be a software developer. I really loved code, and that's what I really wanted to do. So I quit with no job to go to. And somehow that lasted about a week, and I managed to get a software development job. I'm not quite sure how that one worked out, or how I got there, or why they employed me, but I absolutely loved it. I was the only female in the entire IT department. I got the knowledge to build the codes, to write the code, to build the systems, to play around with some new technology. But I also got to travel to site and install that software. I also ended up owning the upgrades for that software, for the database upgrades. And then I hit a problem. There was a database problem for the upgrades and I couldn't fix it. And I owned the database upgrades. So I decided to try and find a user group that could help me, or I could take my problem to and they could maybe give me some advice, give me some ideas to try and work with. So that was my very first user group. So I turned up,
and I was the only female at the user group. Most of the time, I'm still the only female at that user group. It's a SQL Server user group here in Manchester. After that, I think it was about 2 years into going back into that user group, I got talking to a few people, and I got my job at Swinton Insurance from that user group, just talking to people, telling them that I was ready for my next challenge, and someone said, oh, come and interview for us. So that's how I ended up at Swinton. That was 4.5 years ago. So at my time at Swinton, I started off as kind of like low-level developer, and they offered a training budget, and I thought, I'm going to use this training budget and I'm going to go to a conference. And I was the first person to use my training budget to go to a conference outside of the UK. And I went to that conference on my own. I travelled all the way to America on my own, 3 planes, and I lost count of how many hours later. And I arrived at TechEd. So I was on my own in America, and I met some people and started networking. And my very first talk was at another Ladies Who Code event about the importance of networking and going to user groups and conferences and events. I've stepped outside my comfort zone quite a few times since then. I applied for a job that I didn't think I had any chance of getting, but I applied for it anyway. And because I wasn't going to get it, I think that took the pressure off a little bit, or I thought I wasn't going to get it. But when it came to it, I was told it was really close between me and the guy that got the job. So that kind of like, that encouraged me a little bit to keep stepping outside my comfort zone, because I thought, if I'd have just thought, I'm not going to apply for that because I'm not going to get that job, I would never have known how close it came to me getting that job. So it, as well as like achieving new things and furthering your career, it also boosts your confidence when you step outside your comfort zone and you achieve something that you didn't think you could do or you didn't think you would get. As well as applying for jobs that I thought were out of my reach, I've become a STEM ambassador, and I now go to other events with people I don't know, people I've never met before, and teach children to code. I've been to the likes of Hackpool, and I now run a code academy, that's not taught before, a code club, and I teach children, and that is so scary, because when you turn up and these kids are ridiculously clever and they're 8 years old and they have their own website, yeah, that's quite frightening. And they're asking you how to plug in Bootstrap into the HTML page because they want animation and they want things to look nicer. And I'm just thinking, you're only 8 years old. Please don't ask me these questions. But obviously I'm learning a lot from them. So it's not just me that's outside my comfort zone as well. It's them. They're turning up to a class run by people they don't know after school with other children they don't know, and we're all learning from each other. And it's really good to see, just to see the kids get really excited about coding and getting really excited when it works and the lights light up on their Raspberry Pi and stuff like that. So it's just really encouraging to know that although I've stepped out of my comfort zone, but it's given somebody else something, some development, it's helped them, and it's encouraging them to go into programming, which is always a good thing. So it's not just, I know we've talked a lot about work and stepping outside my comfort zone in work, but it's not just in work, because I've recently stepped out of my comfort zone. I joined a ladies boxing team, a ladies boxing club, and they cancelled the Wednesday night boxing club. And I was like, but I really enjoy boxing. So I went to the mixed boxing class an hour before, and that was scary because there were lots of men in that mixed boxing class and I'm just little me. And it's been really good, and I feel like it's pushed my fitness as well, because I'm now up against people that are bigger than me, stronger than me, which means I'm pushing myself and I'm pushing my body beyond the ladies boxing class, where
probably would have took it a little bit easier sometimes. But yeah, so you feel like you have to push yourself and really, really go for it. So I'm not quite sure how to use this thing. There we go. That work. So life begins outside of your comfort, at the end of your comfort zone. I found this while I was looking for an image for that first slide, which I ended up making. But I really liked this. I really think this is definitely true. So for me personally, stepping outside my comfort zone has given me confidence in my career, confidence to make career decisions, confidence to go for that next job, that next promotion, that next level, learn that new technology. It's also given me my confidence to step outside my comfort zone outside of work as well. And I've really got a lot more confident in the fact that just because I don't know anybody at an event or I don't know anybody at a user group doesn't mean I can't do it. Doesn't mean I don't know somebody at the boxing class. It doesn't matter. I'm just going to turn up. And after a week or two, people start saying hi to you walking out the gym. And I definitely think life does begin at the end of your comfort zone. So my next challenge, or my next goal, stepping outside my comfort zone, is to speak at a tech event on a technical subject. I've only ever spoken about going to user groups, going to events, why networking is good for you, for your personal development, for your career, why stepping outside your comfort zone is good for you. I want to talk about a technical subject next. That's scary because people ask technical questions and then you've got to answer them. What's yours? What's your next step outside your comfort zone? What's it going to be?
Rhetorical question, or one for later?
It's one for later, one for everyone to discuss later while they're having another drink.
Interesting. Get the thinking cap on. That was really good, thank you. Any thoughts, questions, observations, anything at all for Kirsty?
No, that was brilliant. Yeah, that's been totally my mantra throughout my career is, taking the path least walked sort of thing. So yeah, brilliant.
Yes, and you'll do it. You'll speak at a tech conference. Go on.
Yeah, I think it's a really important thing to stress. Do you think that women are less likely to take that step than men? Do you think they're a bit more risk averse? No, you always hear about the pay gaps between men and women, and everyone says it's because the women don't ask for it. Do you think that is related to our preference for comfort zone?
Possibly, I think because a lot of using the boxing as an example, a lot of the ladies at the boxing club, if they hadn't cancelled that ladies only boxing, they would have just kept going to ladies only boxing. They would never have gone to the mixed class, but only for the fact that they cancelled the ladies only one, they started going to the mixed class, and some of them enjoy it just as much. So I think I don't know, maybe is it a female thing to like our comfort zone and not want to push it, or do we just take a little bit longer to decide to step outside our comfort zone? Yes.
It's something I learned when I worked with you, I think. But from a recruitment perspective, apparently statistically, men will apply for jobs if they only feel they tick 6 out of 10 boxes, whereas females need to feel maybe they tick 8 or 9 of the boxes. So the fact that you took that risk applying for that job, I guess it's testament to the fact that maybe she'll just throw caution to the wind every once in a while, or just give it a shot.
I think if you go in thinking you're not going to get the job and you don't get the job, you're less disappointed. If you go in thinking I'm going to get this job and you don't get it, then you would probably be more disappointed, I think. But I don't know if you think you're not going to get the job, so you don't quite give 100%, you just give 90% because you think I'm not going to get it anyway. But so it's a bit.
Be prepared to take the risk.
Yeah.
Shoot for the moon and all that.
Yeah. I'm in search. I'm not a developer. I'm in search marketing. I was at SASCON this year conference. There was a big debate about women in technology, etc. And one of the things that did come out was that very few women actually apply to speak at the conferences. They said it's not that they don't want them, which I'm surprised. Because obviously we all have this thing, loads of men, and obviously searches like that, because always loads of men on cameras and whatnot, very few women. But apparently very few women actually apply, and there's some problems here. So apply and learn what you need to do before you get there.
It's scary enough standing here in a small room trying to do a talk. This is my second one, so I'm getting a bit better.
But you're glad that I made you do it, aren't you?
Yeah.
Thank you. I knew you'd appreciate it. Yeah.
You mentioned the situation where you were told that you could have a job doing something else, not what you wanted to do, and you stuck to your guns and you just quit. And I've seen that happen to, I believe it happens to women a lot, that when women are in technical roles, they get encouraged to either move sideways or up out of those roles. You know, women tend to be targeted to become team leaders or to move into analysis roles and to move away from actually being coders. And I had a very similar situation that I had to quit in order to stop them from moving me into a job I didn't want to do. They kept saying, we want you to be quality manager. I kept saying, I'm a coder. That's what makes me happy. That's what I want to do. And they were, no, we want you to be quality manager. And I had to quit to escape that. And do you think, have you seen that happen to other women? Do you think that's something that happens to women?
I've never looked at it like that. I thought it was just because this guy was a bedroom coder. He just coded. He didn't talk much. He didn't really socially engage, and he just coded. And he was very, very good at coding. And I was just out of uni. I had no commercial coding experience, but I knew coding. I had an idea of what could and couldn't be done in the code they were using. So I kind of thought it was just because I wasn't a great coder and I had no commercial experience, but I would be good at business development because I'd have a rough idea of what we could say yes to and what we could say, I'll speak to the developers about it. But obviously that wasn't where I wanted to go. I wanted to code and I wanted to get better at coding. It was such a small company. There wasn't really room for another developer. It was quite a new startup, so I've never looked at it like, I've never thought of it like that. Because I've never experienced that since. I've always been encouraged to learn more, encouraged to go to events, encouraged to develop my development skills, improve my development skills, share them with others, share my enthusiasm for technology, and just encourage other people to code as well.
You program the software, you program the website, you work on which side of the project, which did you work on?
Now, both. It used to be the internal software, but we've merged the teams and I now work on a bit of both.
It's just that I used to work on the website.
Small world.
Yeah.
Any other questions? I think we'll give you a round of applause. Your endeavours to speak at the technical conference. Cool. Thank you. So last up today is Sarah. So Sarah is a senior developer at Capgemini. She's got 15 years industry experience, primarily in Java and web-based systems. And she is going to talk to us now about this. So I shall leave you to it.
This is an idea that I presented at an Agile conference. And it came about when I was dealing with clients that hadn't worked in an Agile project before. So they had no idea what the concepts were, and we had a lot of misunderstandings like, why can't I have a finished date? Where's my requirements document? And I was trying to think of some analogies that would help them understand. Have I pressed the wrong button? Okay. So an analogy being a useful way to deal with a situation where you have something new for somebody, try and find some common language, some common ground. But I think if you get the wrong analogy, it can actually hinder understanding. And I got to thinking about engineering. You know, when we say software engineering, people start to think of other types of engineering, civil, mechanical, electrical. Are we really in the right sort of ballpark there? This is a picture of the cinema in St. Neots in Cambridge. They're actually taking it down in this picture because they built it 75 centimetres too close to the housing estate next door. So when surveyors came around to check what they'd done, they realised they just had to take it all down, built it again, 75 centimetres too far the other way, and had to take it down again. So, you know, the budget for the whole project tripled. Yes, we have huge mistakes in software engineering, but they're not like that. You know, you can't really, you know, you can move code about pretty easily. When when projects go wrong with software engineering, it tends to be more of a communication breakdown. I found this picture when I was looking for an example. I'm sure I've heard of an example where there's a SAP module or something which has a weather forecast indicator on it because the requirements ask for a rain check, and the developers built a rain check. So yeah, usually it's, you know, you say I want this, and then you get something, and then the client will say that's not what I wanted. That's usually the kind of major disaster in software engineering. So this is why we created Agile development, to enforce that communication feedback cycle. So, you know, we can focus on the risk, we can do proof of concepts, we can do prototypes, we can get the client involved straight away. And all the Agile diagrams I could find all had this kind of circular feedback loop on them, which has really helped, I think. I'm a big proponent of Agile ways of working. But Agile software development is not really very much like other types of engineering. So what I wanted to come up with was a better analogy. If not engineering, then what? Oh, another slide of reasons why it's not. So functioning prototypes in the mechanical world are very expensive. If you wanted to build a stained glass window and someone had a look at it and went, yeah, it's okay, but can you just move, you know, this image down a bit and this one up a bit? Can't really do that. You can't focus on the risky areas first sometimes. If you're building a tower block and you want to know how the top floors are going to behave in a high wind, you can't build them first. You're restricted by how you can build things. And you can't really deliver subcomponents, like you can't deliver the doors first and then the building. So you can't really work in the same kind of way that you do in software engineering. So this was my better analogy, to think of the world of television, documentaries, soaps. And I think it fits much better with the kind of Agile concepts that we use. You can focus on the risky bits first. You can film any piece you want in any order and then stick it together later. You can have a prototype and it's not expensive, and you can throw it away and you can get feedback from it. Iterative delivery. If it's something like a series or a soap, you can have weekly episodes that you deliver. You don't know how the series is going to end, and it doesn't matter. You can still get that end of the week delivery. User stories, literally user stories in this case. You know, you can have a weekly script, and you can decide what pieces to put in it for just the next delivery. So, you know, if you were somebody who hadn't worked in an Agile project before, this would really help you to understand how is it that we're building this. And to remove that fear of, oh, we haven't got a signed off requirements document. Well, it doesn't matter. We're only making this episode, and then we can reassess. And you can go on and on with the analogy. So an iteration being an episode, I've already talked about. And the user story is a scene. So when you're trying to say, well, how many stories are we going to do in this sprint? Well, we don't know, and it doesn't really matter. If we don't get the last scene in this week, we'll put it in next week. And, you know, it's not the end of the project or the end of the world. And the product owner role, I think, you know, if they see themselves like the director, then if you want your client to act as a product owner, that removes them that fear of, oh, but I don't understand the software. You know, you don't need to know the details. The director doesn't know how to act or how to do the lighting. He just knows that the finished piece is what he wants. And then the documentation side as well, I think, you know, that quite fits into the analogy. You don't write that you're writing the script. You know, the script is the document. And in the same way, you know, the software can be your documentation, or you can have a living document. So, you know, put your software architecture document on a wiki and update it. And if clients are thinking in this kind of mindset, then they won't be so afraid of having a living document, because you can say, well, you know, it's like a script, bits can change, but at the end of the day, you know, we're still producing something which is what our clients want. So yeah, so all those questions that you might have got from a client that was a bit afraid of approaching an Agile project, like, where's your project plan? You know, we don't have one, and it doesn't matter. We know this is what we're doing this week because you know, prioritize this stuff. You can change what you want next week if you like. Yeah, the project end date, there's not necessarily any such thing, and there isn't in software projects. You know, there really is no end to how many, you know, improvements you can make on a software system. It's driven by budget and user demand, and I think that fits better than, you know, building a building where at the end of the day you do have some finishing moment. I don't know that the analogy entirely holds true. I'm trying to think, what about support? It's like, you're doing reruns on Dave and you still need a skeleton crew to distribute the royalties or something. And enhancements, you don't go back and remake. I suppose you do film remakes. So you could work with that. But yeah, that was really my idea, which I think would help if you're working with clients that are not familiar with Agile, is to get away from that construction mindset and away from that waterfall step at a time. This can really help to get them in the right frame of mind. Thank you.
Thank you. I got that. I liked that. My degree is in performing arts and media studies, so anything to do with the TV and stuff, I'm like, oh yeah, I know that. Great. So now I get it all. Thanks. Any questions at all? Thoughts, observations, anything? Yes.
I'm just going to say that I think it's very, very good, and also I think what the engineering analogy sort of implies or makes people forget is that actually what we're doing is quite a creative process, and that it is not a manufacturing line, is it? We're usually quite breaking new ground. If it didn't require somebody's intellectual capacity, we would have machines doing it, wouldn't we? So I like the.
I'm trying to think where security fits into the analogy. I'm struggling.
Pirating.
There we are.
Any other questions? Yeah.
I think probably most of us who work in Agile will have had the experience of either senior management or clients or both who don't get it at all and don't like it, and they want budgets and they want deadlines, and they just want you to make it fit in that box. So I'm guessing you will have had experiences like that. And do you have any examples of how you've been able to convince people that Agile is good, or sneak it under their radar, or
Yeah, at Capgemini we have it all the time, and we have an entire division, sort of like an Agile sales division, devoted to going out and spending ages with the clients explaining that it's okay, that there's no finishing point, and it's all going to be all right. But until they really sort of get through the first couple of iterations, and especially because, with Agile, the point is to focus on the risk. So instead of all the issues coming out at the end of the project, they all come out at the start. So the very first Agile project a client goes through is hell for them, because everything that could go wrong happens straight away. And so, yeah, we really have to put a very strong sales spin, and we've got some really good guys that have obviously got lots of examples of where it has gone well, and they bring in other clients to explain how it will work. But yeah, we still get, I was working with a client who, they said, yeah, we're working in an Agile manner. We have been iteratively improving our requirements document for the past 6 weeks. Here it is. Goodbye. Like, no. So yeah, we found it is very important to get back to the basics of, well, why was it invented, and do the sales pitch from there. Yeah.
Yes.
On the flip side of that, do you find much resistance, or many of the development teams and the analysis teams and testing teams that react the same way as quite often the management do to Agile?
Yeah. So all the time, it's very easy to slip back into the mindset of like, we'll build it and then we'll test it and then we'll forget it. So yeah, you're right. It doesn't just apply to the clients. Yeah, we all have to remember why we're doing this and keep it up. Yeah, good point.
Anything else? Any more for any more? No. So I think we are about done there, but if everyone wants to hang around, feel free to stay, have a drink, have a chat to the speakers, have a chat to anyone about anything. But yeah, thank you to everyone who has been involved in this, and hopefully that will encourage other people to put themselves out there and push themselves out there. So, announcement.
Shall I just,
do it.
On Saturday, the 28th of November, STEMettes, who are an organisation who try and encourage girls and young women into all the STEM subjects, so science, technology, engineering, mathematics, they're running a hackathon in Manchester at Media City, it turns out. I just looked it up. And they would really appreciate having people come and volunteer to help out. So that's mentoring, supporting, just helping the girls. You don't have to have tons of technical experience, because a lot of the girls have got no experience of coding. They keep it, they've got a series of challenges, some of which are aimed at absolute newbies. They're keeping it very simple. The technologies will just be HTML and CSS. But they would really love volunteers. So if people wouldn't mind coming and seeing me and giving me email addresses or contact details, whatever, if they're interested, that would be brilliant. But quickly, because I'm afraid I have to go and put my son to bed.
And if you want, we can send a follow-up or something.
That would be
If you've got an
great.
email address
Yeah.
or something, we can do that as well, just
Yeah.
in case there's anyone else that
Yeah.
signed up that wasn't able to come but wants to help out.
Yeah.
Cool. Great. Hello.
Got a quick
Yes.
following on from this lady. Tomorrow there's a Channel 4 are in Manchester with they're doing like a mobile games roadshow thing. So not sure if it's on Eventbrite, so
Okay.
it's free, and I've signed up, and so just Google it if people are interested in mobile stuff for Channel 4. So
Wow.
there you go.
Lovely. What's going on? Exciting. Great. Okay, I think we're good. Thank you very much.